Somebody drank all our beer.
Your mom. Okay.
Probably.
Your mom likes to drink beer.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, no, she's awesome.
So I don't know if anyone else has anything that they want to talk about in post show. This is what I kind of wanted to talk about, and I've talked about it to one person, and that's it. So my mom is like probably dying right now. We don't really have a good relationship. So I'm not like emotional about it. So, whatever. But what I've been thinking about the last, submit.
No, hit him.
I didn't know if I was doing something wrong microphone wise.
Was it?
Breathing. Oh, see, that's what I assumed. I was like, what? I don't know. I was listening.
That's all.
I almost killed
You're being
Liz
a
last time
pedant.
we're doing that.
Christian, go on.
Okay. So,
There's a nice way to do that, by the way. Sick burn.
Can I tell my story? No one cares about my story. No one cares about me.
Sorry. No, we do care. Go ahead.
So this is what I've been thinking. Like, okay, you have she is very, very much a believer. And she has been very, very distressed since I was a teenager about my atheism. She has, for a good 20 years, described it as a phase I'm going through. And that, eventually she's positive.
At the 20-year mark, it's more of a disease you have.
Yeah, exactly.
Than a phase you're going through.
It's a fungus. Whatever. It's pretty much on there at the 20-year mark. So here's the other interesting thing is that once we were on a trip together and she said, oh, when I die, there's a word and I'm going to get the Houdini thing, this is the password.
Right, the message. She's going to get the message.
Message to you and like, it's a really obscure word. So this is the other thing I want to talk about.
Banana pepper.
Nope.
Just trying to guess.
You would, as a Texas person, you would not have any idea what this word was. But the other thing that I've just been thinking about is I've been thinking about, wow, my mom might die. Is, what can I do? What would make her passing easier for her? Because these are the last, assuming we'll know in a couple of days, assuming these are the last days she has, this is like the end of her life. And what can you do to make that better? Prayer is bullshit. So what physical things can you do to make that better? One of the things that I thought is, what do I do if she starts breaking down and is like, you need to come back to God, blah, 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 blah. And my wife was like laughing at me because I was actually considering like
just saying
the words. Yeah. And just saying, you're going to be dead in a couple of days. So who gives a fuck? Typically I wouldn't be that kind of person, but I'm just like, it's like for a few, weeks or months or whatever. And then, go on with my life. What do you guys think about that?
There's no way to like dodge it like nicely without saying those words specifically. Like that's what I would think. I haven't been so out and open for as long as you have. Mm-hmm. I know my mom gives me a lot of shit. Even on Easter Sunday, my mom, she gave me a lot of shit in front of my extended family, which was enjoyable. But
I've had that recently.
So
it doesn't get better.
No, so I'm just like, And my mom was calling me right now, so it's fun. So it's like, oh, that's
Is she in the chat room?
No, she's not. That's another story for after the mics are off. And so, yeah. And so, I think that's how I would handle it without specifically saying those words.
Really?
I don't.
Like, how do you say that without saying that?
I don't know.
I was going to say, I don't think I can.
There's got to be something.
I don't think you do anyone any favors lying to them.
Yeah, to where
I don't, and I think that if you tried, I think she'd probably see through it and be even more disappointed.
I definitely think there's a graceful way to handle it without.
Yeah,
there is.
It's a good word.
I don't know. I mean, you got to look at it this way. What's it matter either way? I don't really think that it's an appropriate time to take a stand on your lack of religion versus her beliefs. Mm-hmm. This is no time to take a stand and make one last effort to be like, no, Mom, I'm an atheist. Right. Fuck you. You're not 17 anymore saying I don't want to go to church on Sunday. Right. I think it's a very inappropriate time for that. I think there's a graceful way, and that is by hoping for her that everything she believes is true.
I like that. I like that.
She wants it to be true.
Yeah, to where it's like,
Very
it's going to be
desperately.
fine. You're going to be fine.
You don't
know,
have
it's
to
gonna be
admit your belief.
Yeah.
But either way, either you're going to say, yeah, Mom, I'm totally reconverted. No, I totally believe in God. In a couple days, it's not going to matter. And to say, no, I'm still the hardcore atheist I've always been. In a couple days, it's not going to matter because we know that there's nothing after. So either way, in a couple days, it's not going to matter. But I think there's definitely a graceful way of handling it.
Yeah. My biggest fear, because like at first I was like gung ho on this idea. I was like, I'm just gonna tell her whatever I think in that moment will make her more comfortable and more happy. That's just what I'll say, because who gives a rat's ass? But then I was like thinking of what the ramifications of that would be, and I'm just like, okay, so then she's gonna say, well, pray with me, and will you say a prayer for me? And then I'm just like, okay, well, now I can't do that without barfing, and I'm gonna vomit all over her bed.
Couldn't you though? Haven't you ever read a story to your kid that was fictional and said the words?
But I wouldn't tell them
different,
I wouldn't tell them like a misogynist story or
Yeah, to where if she wants to say something really, really, it's her kind of prayer, and you hold her hand, and you just kind of look away.
Right.
It's like, okay, I'm holding your hand, Mom. Like, it's gonna be fine, whatever.
right. If there was like
But to actually say it yourself,
exactly,
I don't know.
like if the chaplain came in and he wanted to do, I could like bow my head and hold hands and like,
Totally.
oh yes, oh Jesus, Jesus. I could do that.
We're respectful when other people pray all the time. Even
Yeah.
if we're uncomfortable with it,
Yep.
we might do something about it later, but we're not going to do it then.
I kind of Facebook through it.
My dad had open heart surgery, quadruple bypass, about a year and a half ago, 2 years almost now. And to where I found the priest for him. It was a friend's, pastor at their church. And to where I made it happen for my parents because that's what they wanted.
Right.
But I wasn't in the room. It didn't matter to me. It didn't bother me. But they wanted it, and fuck shit. I was going to do it for my dad, but I wasn't going to say the prayer for him. So it's kind of that line like, okay, it's going to be fine.
I definitely think that personal pride aside at this point, because it's not going to matter in a couple days.
I'm not. I have never been afraid of telling her what I really think and what my real positions and thoughts are on these issues. But I'm just thinking, at this point, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Your points don't matter. Her beliefs don't
She's not
matter.
going to tell anybody.
Well, right. I mean, it's gonna. I mean, she has bigger things to worry about.
It's kind of like,
Or does she?
when you apologize for somebody else, like, I'm really sorry you got so upset by my actions. I'm not apologizing on my behalf. I'm apologizing on hers. I probably think it would be a little more graceful to go with I really hope for you that everything you want to be there after death is there for you.
Yeah. But I mean, again, if you're a true believer, and I'm like putting myself in her shoes, like if I thought that my kids were I'm going to die and I'm going to go to heaven, I'm going to be like with Jesus, and we're going to be like snuggling and stuff. And my kids are going to die and they're going to go to hell. They're going to be burning in a lake of fire forever because of what they believe. I don't care if I truly believe what I think happens to me after I'm dead is true. I could not be happy if I thought that my kids were going to be tortured forever and we're not going to have that same thing. I mean, that...
Could you ask her to ask Jesus to forgive you? Say, hey, if this is
If
a
it's
thing,
a real, like, just put in a word.
But seriously,
Do it for the whole show, though, okay? For all of us.
serious. I'm being serious.
All right.
Just if you could please, maybe it'll feel better for her to pray for your forgiveness.
Actually, that's a brilliant point, because I think that giving her something to do and having her have a mission is probably the root of her whole password thing, is that I'm going to do something for you. And so maybe that's what it is that I just need to say, hey, when you get up there, Jesus knows what it's going to take to convert me. just ask him nicely. Hey, could you do me a solid? And okay, so let me move on to the other issue that I wanted to talk about. So we have this password thing, and I am convinced. I've only heard the word once in all of my years. I've only heard the word once, and it was when I was sitting with my mother, and I was like, I've never heard of this, and she's like, oh yeah, I grew up with this, and so it's not the kind of thing that you would expect to hear ever. But I'm sitting here thinking, okay, my mom dies, and then someone comes up to me. She has this story she tells about when her dad died. And this is like the worst fucking story ever. So one of the things he always told her and her sisters were drive defensively when they were leaving and going somewhere. And so when he died, they were all on a plane together going to go to his funeral. And the pilot came over the PA and was like, oh yeah, it's like really icy out there, so drive defensively. And they all took that. They actually went and talked to the pilot and were like, oh my god, you just channeled our father, and blah blah blah. This is proof that he still exists out there. So this is what she's trying to replicate with me. That is like so banal and something that so many people say that I just like dismiss it out of hand. The word we have is really, really out there and not something you would expect to hear. So, but then I'm thinking, I'm putting myself in my own shoes and saying, okay, she dies, and I hear this word like right after. I don't think it's convincing to me. I don't think it's convincing to me.
No.
I think it would be a nice memory, and it would be like, oh.
But
then that's it.
But what would convince you? What would convince you? How could someone convince you that they existed after death? What test could they set up ahead of time?
I can't.
That's what I'm saying too.
Nope.
It's like there's nothing that I would buy. I would just say this is a fucking coincidence. Coincidences happen all the goddamn time.
My mom is very much like that with her parents, and especially her dad. She was really, really close to her dad, even though her dad, oh my God, he yelled so much. I remember my grandpa yelling so much. But I love my grandparents. And so my mom has these stories, these same things, and it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't
materialize in front of me, and then maybe.
And
I'm probably gonna drug test myself.
Yeah, even then I'm like, because I have had really, really convincing hallucinations. Like when I was in my 20s, I had an experience where I was in my room and my lamp started screaming at me. I think it was because I had just woken up and whatever, and I was still kind of, but like my lamp was like screaming at me, and I was like trying to make it shut up. And it was like,
so your alarm was going off, and you kind of halfway open your eyes to your lamp in front of you.
It wasn't that, but I mean,
it was totally that.
Right? It was.
I was walking around my room. I mean, it wasn't the thing, and like I was convinced that my lamp was yelling at me. So, what I mean, your mind can fuck with you.
Yeah.
In weird ways.
My mom and aunt are convinced that my sister come visit them in their dreams all the time. And when I say anything to my mom, when I go, oh yeah, when Ashley died, she goes, she passed. She passed on to a different realm. And I'm like, okay. I just say K because I don't know what it is to be a parent that lost a child. Yeah. I can't begin to imagine. That is not an appropriate time to start throwing around my bullshit and her bullshit. So I just go, okay, when Ashley passed into dirt,
Right. No, I get it. And
I love it doesn't mean I don't love her, and I think my mom thinks it means that she was less important to me in some way.
They take that as like, oh, well, you don't get it, you don't understand, you don't.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I'm like, no, I'm still sad. No, I was still like emotionally crippled for weeks. I just, I think I had an easier time letting go because I believe that she's just gone. Other than the shrine that my mother has set up at my house for myself.
This is because this is on my mind right now, I also had a conversation with a couple of people last night, and one of them was an atheist, was saying, that, when his dad died, I can't remember. I don't care about him that much. Oh,
Ooh, who is it? Who is it?
so there was a death in the family, and he was like, I was the only one who handled it okay because I have these ideas about what that means, and it's not, I'm more pragmatic about it than the rest of my family, and I really feel that. Like people, like when, so I'm leaving at 5 a.m. tomorrow to go because my sisters have been taking off work because my mom's in the hospital, and they've been taking off work, and they're like, we can't take off work anymore. Someone else has to come babysit her. And so I was like, okay, I'll come take a shift. But I went to, my team at work, and I said, okay, I'm going to be out the next couple of days because this was happening to my mom. And like they all, like uniformly, they looked at me and it's like, how are you saying that about your mom right now? I mean, like, how are you saying it that way? That's weird. And I'm just like, it's not weird to me.
Do you think the fact that you guys don't have the tightest relationship maybe helps you detach a little bit in the whole death thing? Because I know that, well, my sister was young and it was super unexpected, so it was like super traumatic.
Sure.
My grandmother, however, who helped raise me, super promoted science in my life. My uncle, her son, is a physics teacher, so taught me everything I know worth a shit. And she died, and I was super upset. I cried. I'm glad she taught me all the things she taught me, and I wish she was still here, but she's not. So
I feel personally, and maybe this is just because I'm psychotic, but like apart from my kids, I don't see myself being more. I don't think there's anyone who could die.
I'm right here, man.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh man, it's a bummer that Petey died. But that would be the extent of it. And I'd be like, but she's dead now, so and I don't know whether that's part of my atheism or whether that's just because I have emotional problems.
No, but it's a good grip on reality.
Yeah, I mean, Amanda in the chat room said, death is inevitable, and I agree with that. And so when you think that, when you're like, everyone's going to die, and it may be a big deal for a decade or 2 decades, but eventually it doesn't fucking matter. No one, 100 years from now, no one's going to care about you. Mm-hmm. Even if you're famous, and you're going to be famous, Petey. You're going to be famous. Yeah. They may revere you, but they're not going to care that you're dead because everyone dies.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't get very well. Now I don't get very weepy about that.
Neither do I. I always thought I dealt with death weird because I would have a good cry. My heart would be heavy for like 3 days, and then, Wednesday.
Yeah. I'm going to work.
Yeah.
My life goes on.
See, yeah, when my grandparents are the closest people that have ever died, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
When
I want to call it died.
Yeah, when they died, I missed them so much, and I cried really, really hard at the funeral. And I saw my other cousins who would never ever see them crying and bawling.
Yeah.
And I would see my grandparents like every Sunday for like a barbecue or whatever. And so it's like, yeah, I would see them. I enjoyed their company. So I miss them because I miss, seeing them and feeding the animals and all that stuff you do at the ranch. They don't get that because they didn't fucking go. They didn't fucking care. They were out doing whatever the fuck they were doing.
Yeah.
To where it's like, yeah, I miss them, but they're dead. That's fine.
Yeah.
People die.
I kind of feel that way about material items too. Like I've never lost my shit over losing a ring or something, or I mean, I've been mad that I've had to like replace something because it's gonna cost money. I don't have the fucking money right now. Like, what kind of shit is that? Or I just got my tax return and I only pop 2 tires when I just get my tax return. But as far as like sentimental items, I don't have real sentimental attachment. The most I ever get is, man, fuck, that sucks.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a thing. That's it. It's the convenience of it that bothers me, but I don't get sentimental attachment to material items either.
When I was in my 20s, one of my cousins died, and she was 19 at the time, which is just awful.
Yeah.
It was a car accident, but like I was kind of fine with it until I saw after the funeral, at the party afterwards, because
Who doesn't drink after?
Irish people like to have a party.
Who doesn't drink after a good funeral?
Yeah. And, I heard my aunt and uncle talking about their daughter, and saw the pain, and then I just totally lost it. I mean, like, it was like weird. It was weird lost. It wasn't just like I was crying, but like I was out of control. But it was more about them, the living people, than it was about
Yeah.
this person who was dead.
Yeah. I'd
I
have
don't
to
know.
agree with that there. When I was given the news that my sister died, it wasn't by my grandmother. It wasn't nearly as traumatic as getting on the phone with my mom. Once I got on the phone with and that was only
Yeah.
because I had children and I could
could
put
relate.
I could try and relate and try and put myself into those shoes and be like, oh my God, what if I lost one of my fucking kids? I would lose my shit too.
Oh, yeah.
And she was losing her shit, and that triggered the maternal instinct in me. But it wasn't about like, and you know what? It's such a sad thought thinking about the people we love, like being here all invisible, looking at us and not being able to see us.
Yeah.
That's very upsetting for me. That's way more upsetting than
Yeah.
actually just, disappearing and becoming part of dust and shit or whatever
Just
you do
memories.
It's a
Yeah.
memory. That's what it is. It's a
Yeah.
it's a memory. It's not that they're like here and floating around and guiding us through life and making sure that I'm
Right.
gonna
That
get
could-
home after
that-
drinking.
That's very upsetting to me.
Yeah.
Thinking that they're there, kind of present. I don't like it.
And for
It's
me,
creepy.
for me personally, like as I've gotten older, I've been thinking, okay, I'm going to be dead, and what does that mean? And I've been very, very. I want to do something that makes a difference in someone's life, or some people's lives.
Atheist
And-
Airwaves every Tuesday night at 7:30 Central on Ustream TV.
but seriously, like a lot of that stuff, a lot of the activism stuff, and a lot of the charity stuff, I'm just like this. Even if people don't know who made their lives a little better, that I was able to do that is enough for me.
Dude, that's why going to this abortion thing just because I'm not going to do it doesn't mean
Yeah.
I'm not making a difference for some poor girl that needs to make this choice. Fuck,
You know,
man.
an hour before the show, I had somebody on Facebook make the argument to me, what do you think happens to you when you die? And I said, well, I turn into dirt and I'm remembered in memories of people that cared about me. And if I do a decent job, they'll keep remembering me. That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
But,
Hopefully they don't remember you as an asshole.
right, which...
There's a nice way to tell her she's breathing on the mic. I'm just being silly.
That's awesome.
From earlier.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So Kensai87 in the chat room says that he tends to make light of death, and I kind of do the same thing. And in fact, I've told multiple people in my family and outside of my family that, like, I expect people to make fun of me when I'm dead. I expect, like, at my funeral, the people are like, man, what an asshole for, like stepping off that cliff. What an idiot. I mean, that's what
That's
I want.
gonna happen.
Thank you. Make
Right
sure
here.
that happens.
got
Make sure
this.
that happens.
I will run
I
a
trust
team.
you.
We will get a group going. Don't worry
Yep.
about it. We'll get a GoFundMe.
I don't
Yeah.
want some rose-colored glasses.
So long as you don't break the law.
I mean, because I also tend to be lighthearted about death, and so I want other people to do that for me. Let's see. So there's some other things before we go that I wanted to bring out from the chat room. Hecky13 says, being atheist, I think, makes it easier to let go. You're not hanging on to the hope that you'll see this person again, that somewhere, somehow, they're still alive. It allows for the completion of mourning, if that makes sense. And I think that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
makes perfect sense.
I think that's why, like, death it doesn't scare me at all. I mean, how many billions of people have died before me, and
They're cool.
yeah, they're cool. They're cool. And I mean, like, I'm not looking forward to dying, but being dead, Who cares? And the last thing I wanted to put out is Katie Scary in the chat room says, make the time you have here count. And I believe that 100% because even little things you do have a huge impact. It's the butterfly wing effect. And the smallest impact you have on someone else can have huge reverberations through multiple generations. And that's fucking amazing to me.
Yeah, and we know that this chance to affect other people is the only chance we get.
I think it makes it much more meaningful.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. Alcoholico in the chat room is completely fucking drunk and can't even write a sentence. But
Oh, I get to go home to that.
I think that's a
Oh,
good.
that's your alcoholic in the chat room. Nice.
Yeah, that's mine.
I don't even know what it is he wrote, but I think that's perfect.
Maybe he just fell asleep on the board.
I think that's a perfect point to end this whole thing on. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 7:30. You motherfucker!
You were totally cool until now.
Until just now, and then you ruined the whole show.
I can only hold it together for so long. Fucking dude, that was my fucking limit. My timer just went off. You said show over. I lost my shit.
You ruined it. We have to start over.
We have to start all over. Okay, everyone, stay tuned.
Let me get another beer.
We're going. We're
Welcome
doing
to
this.
Atheist Airwaves. I'm Christian Farah.
Section 1, paragraph 8, shall promote the progress of science and the use